Hello, how are you? It's Judy McKenzie, and my therapy cat here is helping out, of course. How's your week been? It's been a full week, hasn't it? I just came in from seeing the supermoon with the Wonder Dog Chuck. That's my son and daughter-in-law's dog. He's huge, and we were out checking out this solar phenomena. Amazing. It's amazing. If you get a chance, go see it. Hi, Gina. Anyway, did you have a chance to do any thinking about some of the things that we've been talking about over the last few weeks? Firstly, thinking about when you're, oh, there he is, there's the rat cat. He's full of P&B right now, so goodness knows what he's going to do. I have chosen to just kind of ignore him as much as I can. Anyway, have you thought about any of the things that we've been talking about? So, for example, I know Christmas is coming up, and already I'm hearing thoughts like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed already. Amazing. Christmas comes at the same time every year, has for as long as Santa's been delivering gifts, which is longer than I've been alive, and that's talking something. It is something that can create complete and utter havoc with folks. And so that's why I wanted to start this series a little bit earlier in the year to kind of get you a bit prepared for not getting yourself overwhelmed. So let's back up a wee bit. What have you done in the last few weeks? Have you done any journaling? Have you started recognizing that when you're having your ants marching through your brain, your autonomic negative thoughts, um, have you started to think about putting them into categories, or even better, start to think about how you can switch them around from the negative thinking into something, if not neutral, something more positive? Um, have you started thinking about the frequency of your negative thoughts and perhaps building a case in your mind that it may well be time to put your foot down and take control of your thinking rather than letting your subconscious do all of that shitey work on you, because negative thoughts, they don't get you anywhere. They just don't get you anywhere. Um, they either get you to the point where you can't eat, or excuse me, or you go and eat chocolates. It's one or the other. So it's best to get a handle on the negative thoughts. So as a backup, we first talked about why would you want to consider um, jumping in and doing the work, because it is work, but jumping in and doing the work about managing negative thoughts. We talked about the frequency, 80,000 thoughts a minute, and that no, I think it's 60,000 thoughts. I'm exaggerating. 60,000 thoughts a minute, and 80% of them are negative. And what kind of an impact does that have on your personal success, your relationship success, your career success, all of those kinds of things? And that the only person who can impact that is you. Sadly, it's too bad we couldn't buy an app just to deal with that. Wouldn't that make life a lot easier? I I'd throw in a few bucks, however, then I'd be out of work. So maybe I better rethink that. Um, so then the next thing we talked about was what are the ways in which we do negative thinking, the catastrophizing, mind reading, um, you know, going from 0 to 1,000 in split seconds. And I told you that horrible story about Brock's arm issue, and me like literally throwing up. How ridiculous is that? But you can appreciate the the phenomenal anxiety. And I hear that in my clients as well. It's not something that just I did. Although I do like to be an overachiever, but I know of clients who have, they've tried to harm themselves, but because they've gone from 0 to 1,000 so fast, and they haven't been able to slow their mind down. So I'm one of those people that needs to that needs to understand the why before I get committed. I'm not particularly good at following rules and regulations without an understanding and how it will impact me in the way I want it to. So hopefully, in the last couple of Facebook Live sessions, I've struck a chord. Although we keep them very short and keep them very light, but it just struck a chord with you as to why now? Why might you want to think about it? Well, nothing better than a great big festive family season coming up to get everybody wired for sound, and we have one of those coming up. As wonderful it is, and I saw my first Christmas tree in the window when I was out walking with the Wonder Dog. So it is definitely around the corner. So let's talk about now what, hey Rachel, what can we actually do about this? So there's a ton of things to do, and that's the essence of much of my coaching business is helping to teach a mindset, an adapting mindset. But in the spirit of keeping this very conversational and very specific, so that you can actually take something away and maybe use it within the hour or tomorrow morning, but as long as you get a chance to use it. So I want to talk with you now about. I'm just wondering where this cat's going to jump. He may jump and knock over my phone. That would not be catastrophic, but it would bounce you guys around a wee bit. I want to teach you a little bit about the idea of negative thoughts. They primarily come from two different places. They come from the past, which is anger based, and they come from the future, which is fear based. Did you know that those two primarily negative thoughts, because everything falls into those two areas, anger and fear, and all the various little subtitles of that. But anger is past based and fear is future based. So when you're feeling some anxiety or feeling some real negative thoughts taking a hold of you, you've been triggered. And we will talk about that at another time, about some of the triggers that hit people. But just know you've been triggered. So when you get yourself settled down, you might want to think about, what do you think might have triggered me? Anyway, so if you are, finding that your mind is racing and you're having this, horrendous dialogue in your head that, hey, Kathy, that you really, if anybody could hear it, they might go to across the street and walk on the other side, and perhaps make religious gestures at you that you stay away from them. But you can then think about, if you are thinking very angry thoughts, you're like, okay, where is this coming from? What am I angry at? What happened in the past? And when you're thinking straight, you know that you can't impact things in the past because it's gone. You can't do anything about it. But what you can do about it is you can learn the lesson. And some of those lessons I know are really painful. Hey, I've had more than my fair share of those really painful lessons. But think about, the first thing is identify, is it past or future based? So that's a start. That's a start. So if it's past, then okay, I'm angry about something, identify why it is, and then make your appropriate plan. And what you're doing is you're interrupting that bombarding of negative thoughts, and you are now starting to look for a solution to something, or you're now starting to recognize that there is a solution. So you've immediately, it's like, oh, Tony Robbins used to go, bam. Um, but that's exactly what happens. When people have those elastic bands on their wrist and they snap them, that's what they're doing. They're interrupting their thought patterns. But with this, rather than just, ow, 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 what you're doing is you're actually generating some ideas as to how to manage and interrupt this thinking long term. Because your negative thoughts, oh, hello here, talking about negative thoughts. Negative thoughts are a series of patterns and habits. And the only way in which you can interrupt those patterns and habits is by changing them and doing it more and more frequently. Hey, Jess. And then as time goes on, you start actually your negative thinking is then replaced by more positive thinking. It's pretty amazing. I know it may sound, oh, kitty hair, may sound a bit hokey, but it's so true. It is simply a habit, and a painful one, and not one that anybody really wants to get into. So let's now, we've talked a little bit about the past part, but let's talk a little bit about the future stuff. So when you're feeling really anxious and you're afraid, that's future based. And you know that the absolute maximum amount of stuff that you fear in the future never happens. I know that's the stuff you should write down, and you can make science fiction scary movies out of, because like you can't make this stuff up. It's just so wild. Future based, your best way to think about that is, okay, this is a future based issue. What am I afraid of, or what do I think I'm afraid of? And it was, well, I've got this huge presentation, or I'm meeting someone new, I'm going on a first date. Could be a number of things. Then that and you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna trip, I'm gonna not be able to speak, I'm gonna cry, oh, you just will, you bombard yourself with so many things that you think you're going to do. And, 90% of the time, you're not going to do any of those kinds of things. And if you do trip, big deal. It's not a big deal. It's how you get up. And Jess, you know what I'm talking about, right? Anyway, future stuff, the best way to deal with that is to attempt to identify what you're talking about, what you're afraid of, and if you can start to make a plan, one step at a time. One step at a time. So if you're afraid of a presentation, well, let me just use an example of videos. I was terrified of videos because I see myself as someone who's, in my mind, is in my late 30s. My image does not reflect how I feel inside. And I wasn't all over happy about that. I didn't like that look. I didn't, it just it was holding me back. So I also know that I needed to do more videos. It's a great way to get information across. So I had to buck up, and I did a 30-day challenge, a video challenge. And I had to make a short video every day for 30 days. And thank you for that feedback. And I was getting lots and lots of coaching while I was going through it. And I'm so thankful I did it, because I was able to put some of those things that had me, not that I felt anxiety about it, I just didn't do it. So I just procrastinated, and which is still not a good thing. So there we have future things. Set a plan, one thing at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself with writing lists and lists and lists. Start out with one thing. What can you do? Finish that, check it off. What's the second thing you can do? Nothing else. Do that, check it off. Third thing you can do. And meanwhile, your whole energy level is just, is getting off the ceiling, is settling back down. And it's amazing how clearly you can think. Did you know that you are unable to be creative when you have adrenaline flowing through your system? It's a physical impossibility because your body is preparing yourself to survive whatever trauma is going to be happening. So you cannot be creative and problem solve when you are pumping yourself full of adrenaline. So let's bring mindfulness into this right now. So we talked about a few strategies, but the mindfulness is that when you're in a situation where you are, you're angry about something in the past, you're afraid of something in the future, and you're spinning your intellectual wheels trying to talk, think yourself out of it. How about you just stop wherever you are? Just, unless you're driving, pull over, but wherever you are, stop what you're doing for a minute and just be in this very moment. And what are the sounds that you're hearing? What are the, what is the smell that you're smelling? What are you observing? Be in the very moment. And you know what? When you get into that moment, it is absolutely impossible for you to have ants running through your brain. It is impossible to have it. And so when you get yourself into a pickle, stop, center yourself. And center yourself just means being where you are. Think about what is surrounding you. And sometimes it's, when you're, hi Karen, when you are for a walk with your beautiful dog, his name is Louie, you can have, hey Barb, you can look down at their beautiful little face and all is well, all is well. Look up at the beautiful full moon. See the colors of the leaves that are changing. Kick your way through the leaves like you did when you were a little wee kid. How fun is that? There's so many beautiful things to observe, to hear, to smell, to think about without taking yourself to unhappy times in your past or potentially terrifying things in your future. Be in the now. Do that just for a few minutes. See how that feels. And then, if you feel like it, you can go back to, having a whirling dervish in your head. But you have to build that muscle, build it like you are building glutes. You can have buns of steel, you can have attitude of steel. You can manage through many of the things that they poke at us. This has been a really crazy week, hasn't it? For those of us that are watching what's going on in the world, crazy stuff. You have to learn how to build that muscle, and hopefully some of these little ideas will help you, and we will continue on. Love to hear about anything that you're up to. Love to hear about topics that you would like to chat with the support cat and myself. And I will put a link in the chat box after I'm finished for the Facebook private group that I have. And remember, you are more than welcome to share these videos with anyone if you feel that someone might enjoy them. So until next Monday, keep the faith, everybody. It's all going to be fine. And I think about right now. I'm really focusing on the leaves, the falling leaves. That brings back so many amazing memories for me as a kid. And that helps me so much. I see Karen is saying, yeah, she finds the colors in nature to be really helpful. I so get you, Karen. I really am. I really am with you on that. Um, so anyway, this is a fantastic time coming up. Let's uh, let's work like crazy, and we shall talk to you in 1 week. All right. Bye, everybody. The cat says bye. Bye bye.